my name is Marcus and welcome to my 1-year anniversary on YouTube video where my special little thing will be going over my top 10 favorite games of all time. Now I do have one thing, they have to be in my collection. I can't not just have played a game and enter my top 10. My top 10 needs to be in my collection. Luckily, I have more than 100 games to choose from, so it's quite easy. Anyways, I will put my 11 through to 20 in the description, just for a little bit of fun. But this is just the top 10. We're starting off right here on the shelf. The bottom game, Keystone North America. I'm not gonna grab them out. I might throw in a quick picture. But Keystone North America, I've really liked it. I've rated it a 9 out of 10. I don't think I've made a review of it yet. Maybe I have. I can't actually fully remember. But I really think it's great. What really pulls it up is building your 4x4 grid. I like it opposite other grid builders where you are restricted to this. In other grid builders you can kind of place one, and then when you get more cards you can choose whether that one you just place it the middle card, top corner, right corner, top left corner. In this one you place it immediately into a corner, kind of hoping that that's a good placement for it, but then later on in the game there is a way of moving it. I love that there's two ways of ending the game, when someone has filled out their grid or when the turtle goes to 0. Absolutely love that. Things I don't like as much about it is, first of all, towards the end of the game you will get stuck and just have to take something bad because you can't achieve it. You are going to achieve most of your goals, but you will never ever achieve a perfect 4x4 grid. I sort of dislike that. Not the best thing ever. But a lot of the scoring is amazing. You have the keystone markers, you have the notebook things. Can't remember off the top of my head. And the way you get the cards by, you know, in the grid that's moving down and it costs a little bit extra. The fact that you put it on a card is brilliant. I've not seen that on a lot of card games, but I know that it's not a new concept. But absolutely great. It's taking away because of that ending thing, the little bit of luck. Like you can have a grid of 5 is kind of not useful for you. And then you have the yellow bricks in the middle. I think they're too similar when you flip it over to the yellow side. I need more difference in them, and the fact that you constantly throw out so many cards becomes a little bit too much to take that, and that's what's keeping it a little bit lower on my list, but still 10th favorite game of all time. Absolutely brilliant. My ninth best game of all time is down here. It's all new, distilled. I recently reviewed this one. Bloody hell, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, coming right into my number 9. I think it's that the fastest a game has come in that. Of course, growing past all the other games, it is brilliant. I want to give a shout out to Casting Shadows in the top 20, but not in the top 10. Still, what brings it here? First of all, the theme. I love this theme. I mean, Keystone North America has a great theme. You will see more animal-themed games on this list. But the theme of making alcohol, it's very different. You don't see a lot of this distilling. You know, you have viticulture up here. You have some bartending, like what's it called, home brewers and on the rocks, sort of also making alcohol, but distilling alcohol in this way, and so much theme. It's dripping theme. I can take this one and you can see the theme forming off it. Okay, taking that thing a little bit too far, but it's brilliant in the theme. Absolutely brilliant, and the way you would make it, and what they cost to make, how much time they take to make, everything is so incredibly thematic. There's very, very few things taking me out of it, and it's very much the luck element. Once again, when you put too much luck in, it's going to take me out. The luck element of removing the top and the bottom card, you can sort of negate that throughout the game, but the fact of the matter is that is there throughout the most of the game, which will result in you not making what you want to make in some turns, and that's going to bring it down a little bit. There's a cat just walked in here. Going to bring it down a little bit, and the fact that you can sort of get stuck and not have the materials you want is going to keep it away from really high, but still a 9, because it's absolutely brilliant in all aspects. Even the luck aspects is still not too bad, and when you're making money, and sometimes you have to think about like how much you want to spend this turn, because I'm making something that has to age, which means I'm not going to get a lot of money this turn. And then maybe you've made 2 to age. Do I want to sell one of them now, or next turn just wait? It's a constant balance of getting coins and points, and the fact that you just score your points at the end, to me, is actually pretty decent. It's interesting that you score all the points, maybe remove some of the points, but it's so interesting to score some of the points to just not leave you in the dead, because that would make you less, but it's way better to sell it still. So yeah, distilled, not best game of all time. Absolutely brilliant. 8th game. I can't believe I'm actually bringing out the list here. I didn't think that was going to be possible. Needed. I just needed a quick reminder to bring you the 8th. My 8th favorite game of all time. Now we're into the 10 out of 10s. The top 8 is 10 out of 10 games. Absolutely brilliant game. This is the biggest singular box that I own. It's right next to my head. It is Everdell. Not Twilight Imperium, unfortunately. It is Everdell, the complete collection. Well, that's what this box is called, but it is just Everdell base game. I haven't played all the expansions yet. I'm so annoyed at myself for not having played all the expansions yet. Seriously need to do that. Everdell, what a brilliant game. A lot of people are talking about the tree in the middle being a little bit overkill. I agree, it's a little bit overkill, but my god does it look amazing in there. I love this worker placement, going through the seasons and getting a few more workers. Very much a thing you do all the time. But I love the fact that you can go into different seasons. It took a little bit of time to understand that rule for me, I will say. But once I understood that, like, I'm in spring, but now I'm ending spring, going into summer. You are still in spring, maybe. What an interesting thing. I remove my figures again, opening up the board for me to do it again. It's so interesting, opening a board. What it does sort of result in is that towards the end you might be sitting there because you were very quick going through, but it's still an absolutely very interesting thing. Of course, it's worker placement. I love worker placement. I really do. I think that's my second favorite mechanic in the game. I think it might be my favorite. My second favorite being polyominousness. So yeah, worker placement, getting more workers in, and the different setups in the forest clearings. I love the fact that you have constantly new ones. I haven't played a game where they've all been the same. I have had one or two go again. The constantly new ones, playing with expansions, you add to it. Constantly ones. The goals, there's some that are the same. Same with places to get things. There's some the same, but there's also some that are specific for your game, and it's constantly different. Just makes you want to play again and again and again, and just because of gold, because it's a great game, because so many cards, you can just constantly build something different. And in this one, the luck doesn't really hurt you that much. You have a massive grid to choose from. Your hand is decently sized. I don't know if it's that much of an advantage to get more cards on hand than it is to start. I don't know if that is completely leveled out, but it's still, you have a lot of cards. You constantly have something to do, constantly have something to build up to, and you know, when you get into it, activate green things. Towards the end of the turns, you make so many things just by changing season. It is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. I really love this game. Just everything you do, and I have to say, Belfair is probably one of my favorite expansions that I own. It adds more to it, more spaces to go, more things to do throughout the game. It just adds to an already brilliant game. One of my favorite expansions of all time. I might do a top 5 or 10 expansion at some point. Everdell, my number 8 game of all time. My number 7 game of all time. We have to now move over to another worker placement. This is right here. It is Viticulture. I move a Dinosaur Exhibit here, just up here, just out of the way for now. It's Viticulture over here. Is Viticulture Essential Edition, I should say. I have not played regular edition. I've only played Essential Edition, and to me, Essential Edition with Tuscany is essential. Viticulture World is a good expansion. Tuscany, another expansion. Tuscany Essential Edition is another expansion that's up there. Anyways, Viticulture, another worker placement, absolutely freaking brilliant. At some point I gave it a 9. It is now a 10, as you might understand. I've made it in the review, I gave it a 9, now it's a 10. The reason I've upgraded is because I realized the player count doesn't bother me as much as everything else is just brilliant. The main thing I had was the fact that I would not play this at all player counts. 4 or 6 players I don't like to play. I prefer it at 2, 3 or maybe 5. At 4 or 6 I don't really want to play it. And it doesn't bother me as much. Because 2, 3 and 5 are still brilliant play counts. And 4 and 6 I will still play it. I just don't enjoy it as much, but I will still play it. And so it doesn't bother me as much. So everything else is brilliant. You start off with a handful of workers and the choice usually between some coins or a building. How do you want to do it? What does the building do? How important is it? Oftentimes you choose the building, have less coins, but the building is very much worth it. Usually. Sometimes I have just taken the coins because the building that I was offered was not worth it. But still. And you go through, you plant your fields, you go through the seasons trying to plant wine, sell wine by worker placement and some limitations through your opponents, of course. Again, worker placement up here in my top 10, it's absolutely brilliant once again. Where was I? Right, I love the residual payment thing, where like once you've begun selling, you will get a lead, insinuating your opponents to really come after it. I don't think I've won this game yet, because I'm not that good of a player of it. I just really love playing it, battling my friends, trying to do the best possible thing of building up a good wine field of wine and building correct buildings, trying to sell as many as possible. It's difficult to balance, and difficult doesn't mean bad. It's difficult to balance, I think, getting enough workers in, getting the right points at the right time, and making the orders. I think it's a difficult thing to completely balance. I haven't figured it out yet, but it is absolutely a brilliant game. It is my 7th favorite game of all time. Into my number 6, and I just remembered this is another worker placement. My top 10 is filled with worker placement, and we have to look over here at Creature Comforts. Another game that I played this year, first time. These other ones were last year actually. It doesn't matter. Anyways, Creature Comforts. I really like this one. I like the fact that you roll your own dice first. You know, you use the dice to complete actions. And with your own dice and what materials you have on you, you try to decide what to do. And it is, again, it is a hard choice. It's difficult to come out there. You don't have a lot of time to change the die roll. It's a brilliant balance of luck and tactic and choices. Absolutely brilliant from Creature Comforts here. And the lucky and the dice roll and the order. I like the fact that it's not really, you can still do the same actions. Your opponent might just do the same thing, like take the same card as you or whatever, and that hinders you, but you can always get the same materials. It's just the cards that are different. I love that. I love that there's a visitor, which changes every season. I might have wanted more seasonal cards at top, just to change it out a little bit, because it's always the same. You always know what's going to come, and at some point you can figure it out. So I would have loved for there to be just a few more up there, but it honestly doesn't take away from the replayability. You just figure out what's there, and in the luck of what you get on your hand, you're trying to do best as possible. We've really achieved some high scores in this one, and I think it's a game that I can bring and we can play it because people just really like it. So yeah, Creature Comforts is my 6th favorite game of all time. Number 5, we're getting away from the worker placement now. We're getting into a game that has been my number 2 favorite game for a very long time. Unfortunately, recent games that's come in that I've played has dropped down to number 5. It is K2, Climbing the Mountain. I bought this one once. I just saw it on Facebook Marketplace. Someone was selling it, and I thought, I actually looked at Le Havre, but he had sold that one. I thought K2, it's sort of cheap. I'll bid on it. It does have a little damage on this part of the box, but it was cheap, and I said, hey, I'll buy that one. So I bought it, I played it, I liked it, I played it again, I liked it even more, played it again, I loved it. It is so good, I really like it. You're in the exact same position, which is so thematic. Again, very thematic game in K2. Viticulture is very thematic. Everdell is also pretty thematic. Creature Comforts. They're all very thematic games, I will say. Anyways, K2. Very thematic in the sense that you're all in the same boat. You all have the same equipment because you have the best equipment. You're ready to climb the mountain in exactly the same way. It's all about the order of which you do things. And that's a little bit of the luck coming in. It's giving you some choices on what to do, how to climb the mountain, which way you are going to go. Try and get to the top. And then again, because you can die in this one. And maybe some people will say, oh, that's a little bit extreme. I say, thematic as fuck. You can die by climbing a mountain. You can die in this game by climbing the mountain if you're not good enough. I've not had a try yet, but I have not played on hard. I have played on hard easy or easy. I've not played on the hardest difficulty trying to climb the mountain. Eventually I will play on the hardest difficulty to try and climb the mountain. I will eventually. Just haven't done it yet. A bonus is, this is probably the only game that I will actively want to play solo. I don't really want to play solo a lot of games, but this one is so brilliant and gives me the same feeling solo as multiplayer. And I will play it solo. I've played probably mostly solo. Because unfortunately I don't know a lot of people who played with me, but I played solo and it's just fucking brilliant. Just going through it, sitting in the motions, because I know what I want to do. I know how to do it. And I just go for it. And it's absolutely brilliant. K2 is my 5th favorite game of all time. It's fallen down a little bit, and actually this is supposed to be an order of which game is the best, and therefore I have to move Flamecraft down below K2. A little bit of a spoiler, Flamecraft is not in my top 4. My 4th favorite game of all time. What have I put in my 4th favorite? I can't believe I have to check this. Right, I can remember it now. My 4th favorite. I actually going to turn around and look over here. So, putting your guesses now, it is Ticket to Ride Europe. This game used to be my #1 favorite game, but I've played 3 games since, and they've overtaken it, pushing Ticket to Ride Europe and of course K2 down the pegging order a little bit. But to be honest, the 3rd place game and these 2 can constantly change around in this top 5. But the top 5 is pretty secure. I don't know if there's many that can change my top 5. Anyways, Ticket to Ride Europe. I think this is the best Ticket to Ride, definitely, because it has the base rules of Ticket to Ride, which is amazing. It's an amazing game. It uses luck and tactic brilliantly, with having 5 cards out that you can choose from constantly, or push your luck in that one. Multiple ways to go around the board on, of course depending on how locked away it is later on in the game, but multiple ways of doing your routes, multiple ways of getting to your goal. Absolutely brilliant. Why do I like Europe more? It's because of the stations, it's because of what's it called, the tunnels, and it's because it's a more open map. Those 3 things just make Ticket to Ride Europe better. Because I like Ticket to Ride Europe when it is a friendly battle and not when it's a harsh battle. I feel like Ticket to Ride and some of the map collections up here in Africa, amongst others, India a little bit, Switzerland. These are very, very close battles where you really block off your opponents. Those are good. Those are really good. But Ticket to Ride Europe is more open. There's more room for all of you. You have more ways of negating minus points. It's more of a friendly battle, and that is great. Every Ticket to Ride is good. Ticket to Ride Europe is greatness. Absolutely great. It's of course a 10 out of 10 for me. But you already know that if you've seen the review of it. But yeah, just absolutely brilliant. One thing I will say is I've added so many trains to it, because I think in Asia we got some more trains. There was some reserve trains in it. Every time there's some more trains added to the pile, just extend the game. So I have a lot of trains in there. A lot of trains. So yeah, Ticket to Ride Europe is my 4th favorite game of all time. Now we enter the top 3, and I have to turn around here, and every top 3 is over here. Now my 3rd favorite game, I'm getting a box, sort of like the Everdell Complete Collection for it. Eventually, in the summer I have heard. I've pre-ordered it. I'm also getting the latest, 2nd to last expansion later on this year, and I'm hoping that the latest expansion will come out in Danish later on this year, but I have the entire game in Danish. I can't just have some of it in English. And it of course, Wingspan. Positioned right here underneath Viticulture for some reason. Should probably be above it, but whatever. Wingspan, 3rd favorite game of all time. My god, this is a good game. I really like Wingspan. The way of building the birds, which is amazing, with a little bit of fun fact, and they just look so brilliant. So absolutely brilliant. Wingspan, the look of it is great. And I love it because I've brought it to so many groups. I've brought it to experience groups, to my family and friends, and every time I play it, and they just like it. That sort of happens with Ticket to Ride Europe as well, but very much so with Wingspan, I think, because it looks so good. It helps, and it is just brilliant. Again, you have sort of these limitations of the grid, but still open grid, sort of like in Keystone North America. Not as much dependent on each other, but where you can build it out on the different habitats, and they give you different things. And I love the fact, of course, that the actions just get better and better the way you go. I've heard a lot of people compare to Earth. I have not played Earth, unfortunately. I've heard a lot of people compare it to it, but then they say every time someone does something, you do something. And I think that could be fun in a setting, but definitely Wingspan, you score more points if you all do something, but it's not as fun. We had some playthrough where somebody had actions where everybody got to do something, take some food or play a card or whatever. Everybody got to do that, and sure, it was brilliant. It was scored so highly. It was never scored as highly before, but I didn't find it as fun. I find Wingspan more fun when you're trying to block each other, trying to score off each other without giving each other too much. Sometimes you give each other something just to get a bonus yourself, right? Like, I'll accept that you get 1 corn because I get 2 corn. Something along those lines. That's when I think Wingspan is absolutely brilliant. It takes a little bit more experienced group to really play that way, but it doesn't matter. And of course, one thing I want to say about all these games, right? Keystone, North America, Creature Comforts, Distilled, Everdell, Viticulture, Wingspan, K2. These are brilliant. These are all brilliant at all play counts. The only one is Viticulture. If I don't say anything, just assume that they're brilliant at every play account you can possibly play at. I love them at all play accounts. Anyways, Wingspan was number 3. Number 2, you have to look over here. Because right here you have my number 2 game of all time is Meadow. It's really, really good. Building up this downslope. Actually, at the start, I totally forgot you had very limited in the cards you could have down here. So we really built a lot. We were like, oh, you're actually limited. And it didn't really change a lot. You still build a lot, you just build differently. More limited, of course, but limitations is not a bad thing. It's just rules to follow. Which is what makes board games so good, is when they have good rules to follow. Obviously. But yeah, again, the beauty of this game, the freaking beauty. I mean, when seeing Wingspan, you don't think it gets any more beautiful than that. Then you get to see Meadow and you're like, what? It could get more beautiful than that. I think Meadow looks way better than Wingspan. That's just my opinion. The gameplay, I also think is a little bit better. You're building your own grid, you're moving around with the little needles with 2 different actions. I have the square actions or needle actions, so to speak. I think that's a brilliant way of things. Do you want to spend this here or do you want to spend it over here? The question mark one adds so much. If I didn't have that one, this game would fall so far down. But the fact that you have that option, that you always have that option, and you can sort of save it till the end, opens up the game so much and means that you get to do so much more. I think if you didn't have the question mark one, if you just like a 5, right? Or it wasn't even there, and you just had the 4, this game would fall so far down. But that one just opens up the game that little bit more, makes it that much more fun, that much more brilliant. Because it's another absolutely brilliant nature game. Freaking, yeah, love this game. Absolutely do. So it's my number 2 game of all time. I can talk so positively for so long. Now, I said before in my overlooks that I usually rank them, like I mentioned it here, rank on what games I think is best. And there's 2 games above Meadow. The thing is, I haven't played Aqua. I will talk about that in just 2 seconds. My favorite game of all time is still Sula Riddle. I got it last year at an auction. Actually, it's about 1 year and a couple of weeks since I got Sula Riddle now. When I first played it, I thought it was good. And it went straight into my top 5. And then I didn't play for it a little bit. And it started just to remain as like a 5th or 6th favorite game of all time. And recently, well, not recently, but like after a few months, I finally decided, hey, I should give Sula Riddle another go. I'll bring it to my game group, we'll play it. We played it again. And all of a sudden I felt the game. Right. Some games immediately jump into a position like Distilled. I don't see Distilled jumping much further up. It might do, you know, you never know. Sula Riddle is one of those games where you have to be in the mood. And when you're in the mood and you play it, all of a sudden it's just brilliant. And then you're always in the mood, right? Because if you're not ready for it at the first playthrough, then it's not going to be as brilliant as it is. But then the second playthrough, you want to play it, you want to give it another go, it just clicks. It just hits you how absolutely amazing this game is. I love it. I love the drafting, I love putting on the trucks, I love building up my zoo, I love trying to just, you know, pinch my opponents by saying, oh, that's a kangaroo, you can get a giraffe on that as well, because I know you don't need giraffes. And therefore I'm kind of annoying you a little bit, giving you some minus points. And I can see, oh, now you have giraffes. So that means that this chimpanzee now is a good thing, because, you know, then there are 2 different ones in your enclosure. If there's anything I should say against this one, it is the fact that coins aren't that much available unless you play with the XXL expansion. Then you can get a lot of coins. And of course the baby enclosures. But in the base game, if I should say something, I would say you have a lack of access to coins, and they're really important throughout the game. That would be my gripe with Sula Riddle, is sitting and missing coins. But I freaking love this game. opening up the new enclosures and exotic and XXL and all the promotions add so much to it. I freaking absolutely love and adore this game, and I can talk for hours just about how brilliant it is, about every aspect of it that I love. It deserved the Spiel des Jahres, it deserves so many awards, it deserves best game of all time. I love Sula Riddle, I 100% do, 1000% I do. And that is my top 10 board games of all time. Check the description for my 11 through 20. Now I said I would mention Acredo, and I also wanted to mention Twilight Imperium. And I will put Dinosaur Exhibit back to where it belongs. Because the reason that I've sort of have them around here, this one is because it's a larger box. It's because there's some games that I haven't played yet. And these are just some games that I haven't played yet that I think could get into my top 10. Possibly. I don't know, because I haven't played them. But I could. And let's start over here. I have 3 games right here where I think Rex, Violence Empire, I've heard both good and bad things about it, so I don't know. But Robin Hood and His Merry Men and Vikings of the West Kingdom. Robin Hood and His Merry Men, sort of a Merry Men placement. That's a joke courtesy of my friend. Worker placement, I love worker placement, you heard it. Worker placement, worker placement, worker placement, I love worker placement. So there's a worker placement, Robin Hood, I love Robin Hood. So it really is, it has everything to become a really good game, I just need to play it. Viscounts of the West Kingdom, I've heard so much good of the West Kingdom series. I finally have Viscounts. I got Wayfarers and Scholars of the Scythe Tigris on the way. Looking forward to playing those. Viscounts, gotta get it played. Gotta know whether the hype for the West Kingdom is real or not. I really want to get, and I know someone who has the Paladins, so I really want to play that one. But he's sort of hesitant to play it with people who don't know it because it's lengthy. I kind of want to try and promise him that I will do good on it, I promise. Another one is Holding On, Troubled Life of Billy Kerr. I've heard about it, I saw a review and stuff. It sounds really, really good. What I would worry about is the replayability of it, because if it's not very replayable, that will really take a notch out of it for me. But it sounds really interesting, really good. Could it be a new game to my top 10? I don't know. Sorry. Man, the Casting Shadows is in my top 20. It is not made it into the top 10, fortunately. Acredo I of course have here, because it's the sort of the continuation of Sula Riddle. So therefore I have it here, because it could very easily be my second favorite. I will count it. I don't really count all of these Tickets Rides over here, because, well, I do, but I don't want to fill my top lists with Tickets Ride. But Acredo, I might count it if it's different enough from Sula Riddle. If it's too much the same, I probably won't count it. But I need to get it played, figure out how good it is, you know. And on this list there's no more games that I think would take it. Then here I have War of the Ring at the bottom section there. That's a brilliant game. I love the Lord of the Rings. I've heard so much good. This is first edition. I really want to get a hold of the second edition, of course. But first edition should also be really good. And there is definitely a chance that it will get into my top 10 games of all time. And the last game that could quite possibly maybe is of course Sula Riddle Duel. Once again, it seems quite different from Sula Riddle. So could it be different or not? Could it get into my top 10? You might notice how much I love Sula Riddle. But yeah, that is my top 10 board games of all time, and also some that could quite possibly get into the top 10 once I get them played. Thank you very much for watching. It's been 1 year. Here's to one more. Bye.